Hello everyone, my name is Logan, and my homework assignment this term is going to be on Clostridioides difficile, or shorthand C. diff. Some background information about C. diff is that it is a rod-shaped, gram-positive, spore-forming, toxin-producing anaerobe that is also pathogenic, meaning that it is harmful to the human body. C. diff is found in about 30% of all humans' small and large intestines, where it lives dormant, not usually affecting your system. It can live dormant on surfaces for months as well. Found in human and animal waste and feces. It can also be found in our water and our food if not properly filtered and cooked. C. diff is often acquired after hospitalization and after antibiotic usage. This is a result of it being an opportunistic pathogen that when the human microbiome is disturbed, it can take over, causing inflammatory response from a compromised immune system. The immune system can be compromised from many different reasons shown here: chemotherapy, inflammatory bowel disease, or kidney disease. Some clinical symptoms of a C. diff infection include watery or frequent diarrhea, stomach aches and pains, increased heart rate due to dehydration, fever from the infection, nausea, and weight loss. Treatment usually requires antibiotics such as vancomycin, or in severe cases, requires the surgical removal of the infected colon. Recently, scientists have actually been performing fecal microbiota transplants, in which stool containing all of the normal gastrointestinal microorganisms from a healthy donor is transplanted into the patient in hopes of correcting the infection.
It's time for the homecoming dance. But oh no, what's this? Just in time for the dance. Why? To answer this question, let's zoom out for a moment. We are superorganisms, giant walking cities colonized by millions upon millions of tiny microbial colonists, symbiotic organisms that call us home. They help us digest foods, help create essential vitamins, help protect us from pathogenic invaders, and do a ton of other things to help us thrive. They exist everywhere within us, in our gut, all our mucous membranes, inside our organs, and all over our skin. That's great, but what does that have to do with my pizza face? Well, on our skin, we have a huge variety of microbes too. They're generally friendly little guys, helping us fight off invasion like Staphylococcus and Proteobacteria, helping tidy up dead skin cells like Demodex mites, or chowing down on our excess oils. It's this last one that matters to you when you're getting ready for your dance. See, we secrete sebum, a fatty acid rich oil from sebaceous glands in our hair follicles. This is irresistible to a microbe called Cutibacterium acnes, formerly Propionibacterium acnes, changed to Cutibacterium not because they're cuties, though they are, but because they colonize cutaneous areas on humans. C. acnes is actually the most abundant microbe on our skin. Propionibacterium were originally named that because they produce propionic acid as a byproduct of fermentation. This stuff is mad useful as a food preservative for cattle feed and human baked goods, as pesticides, plastics, and in pharmaceuticals. C. acnes is an industrial little guy who generally causes us no trouble whatsoever. During puberty, however, our sebaceous glands go into overdrive and we pump a veritable sea of sebum out for C. acnes to feast on, so much that they are able to quickly reproduce and form very sticky biofilms in and around the hair follicles. The overgrowth signals leukocytes which storm in to battle C. acnes back. It's the fallen soldiers of that battle that accumulate in hair follicles and become the acne that sprouts up on your face. Your immune system will most likely eventually win this battle, and by regularly washing your face and perhaps adding some oil reducing applications to your hygiene regimen, hopefully it won't continue to be a huge problem. Of course, that doesn't help you right now. But hey, at least you know, and your date is also a teenager secreting a ton of sebum, so.
Hi, this is Felicia, and this is Ode to Kimchi. Kimchi, oh kimchi, how did you come to be? With veggies and herbs seasoned so perfectly. First, you need some cabbage, but really, get creative. Use any veggie you want. But now, let's increase the salinity and add a bunch of salt. Let it sit for a bit, and that's just the start. Adding salt, what does it do? Removes excess moisture and makes the cabbage bendable. For a good batch, let it be from hours 6 to 8, but actually overnight would be great. Rinse and drain, I say. Then start combining the goodies and you're on your way. Mix and add and mix, layer it good, and again, let it sit. Room temperature, please. Boy, oh boy, I know those juices are flowing, and you wouldn't believe how many reactions are going. Start with the acids, acetic and lactic, eats up the sugar so fermentation can happen. Fermentation takes a few days. Have you ever had it? Have you had it homemade? Boy, oh boy, what a spicy treat that comes from Korea, a great side dish with meat. Kimchi, oh kimchi, how did you come to be? Yes, with veggies and thyme and a little microbiology.
I decided to do my paper starting with the overall summarization of microbiomes in our skin and in our gut. We have the Demodox folliculorum, which is actually not a bacteria, but it is a arachnid, or it's related to arachnids. And then we have all these fungi, viruses, and most of all, bacteria. Bacteria in our gut help us digest food, and they break down by breaking down our the food and extracting vitamins that we could not do without them, as well as they help with homeostasis and communication between maybe what kind of foods we're craving or what kind of foods we need. They are oftentimes found in our gut in large quantities. I mean, there's millions and trillions of them. But we also have them on our body, as well as mouth, tongue, teeth, gums, saliva, mucus, all of it, armpits, our groin areas. I mean, they are everywhere. They are beneficial, but they can also be harmful. I focused in on Firmicutes, which is just a name that actually summarizes a ton of bacteria. But Staphylococcus is the one that I chose. And Staphylococcus is a known bacteria, very common actually, and it has become methicillin resistant, so we've known it as MRSA. And they are actually, since we have Staphylococcus everywhere, it is actually interesting to learn about MRSA in a more detailed fashion, because I didn't know we had it all over us, but once it gets in your skin, if you have a cut and it gets in your skin or it gets into your blood and it goes through your blood system, especially to your heart, that can be a very detrimental, deadly disease. So but that just summarizes what I decided to focus on. But yeah.
Hello, folks. Today I'll be talking about Streptococcus mutans, a key bacterium in the oral microbiome and one of the main causes of dental caries. Let's dive into how these microorganisms works and how we can prevent its effects. The human microbiome is made up of trillions of microorganisms that play critical roles in digestion, immunity, and even oral health. In the mouth, these microbes form a delicate balance. For example, bacteria like Lactobacillus and Streptococcus help maintain oral health. But when this balance is disrupted, like when Streptococcus mutans becomes dominant, it can lead to problems like cavities. The oral cavity is a unique ecosystem with diverse habitats like the teeth, gums, tongue, and saliva. These areas provide surfaces and nutrients for microbes to thrive. One important feature of the oral cavity is biofilm formation, structured communities of bacteria on tooth surfaces, like these parts over here. Streptococcus mutant plays a key role here. It uses sugars to produce acids that lower the pH, making the environment more acidic and harmful to teeth enamel. Streptococcus mutans is a gram-positive bacterium that thrives in low pH environments, as I said before. It ferments sugars, producing lactic acid, which demineralizes enamel and causes cavities. Additionally, Streptococcus mutans produces sticky substances that help it from strong biofilms onto the surfaces, protecting it from removal and making it highly carcinogenic. This is why controlling its growth is so important. Um, well, the prevention is very important here. The good news is that we can fight Streptococcus mutans because brushing and flossing help break up biofilms. Fluoride strengthens enamel and reduces acid damage. So limiting and also limiting sugary foods deprives Streptococcus mutans of its main energy source. Finally, new therapies targeting its biofilm forming ability are promising for the future. Um, so by taking all of these steps, we can protect our teeth and our overall health. Thank you for watching. Understanding Streptococcus mutans shows us the importance of oral hygiene in a healthy microbiome. And together, all of these efforts can help us maintain strong teeth and a healthy smile. Thank you.
Hey everybody! Come on a walk with me and my dog as I talk about my microbe. So, quick overview of the human microbiota. It is the aggregate of all the microbes that live and grow in and on the human body. They can be found in your pores, in the ridges of your fingertips, in your respiratory tract, and most numerously in your gut. Different regions of your body provide an environment that is suitable for different microbes. The microbes that live on your scalp are much different than the ones in your gut. But don't worry, it's not as gross as you think. These teeny tiny organisms actually have a mutually symbiotic relationship with us. That means that we benefit from them being there and they benefit as well. The bacteria in your gut, for example, are able to break down foods that we can't digest and turn them into molecules that we can use. These byproducts of their metabolism are called metabolites and are extremely important to our health. But this relationship can turn sour if the homeostasis of communities are disrupted. This can be caused by taking antibiotics, lifestyle factors like diet and exercise, or hygiene habits. Dysbiosis of microbiota communities can have serious negative health implications. For example, irritable bowel syndrome has been linked to a decline in Firmicutes and Bacteroides. These beneficial bacteria are normally abundant in healthy individuals, and IBS is characterized by a distinct lack of diversity in these colonies. So that brings me to my specific microbe, which is Hendrixia coagulans. Hendrixia coagulans is a gram-positive, spore-forming, facultatively anaerobic, lactic acid-producing bacteria that is commonly used as a probiotic supplement. Lactic acid bacteria are the most commonly used probiotic in food, but H. coagulans are unique lactic acid bacteria because it produces spores. These spores are highly resistant to acidity, high temperature, and bile salts, and its resistance allows it to be fast-growing, which is essential for the survival in the gut and make it a very effective probiotic.
Hello everyone in Microbiology 234. Today, let's dive into how your microbiota fights tuberculosis. Your microbiota is this incredible collection of microbes living all over your body. They include bacteria, fungi, and viruses. They're like your personal superhero squad, helping with digestion, protecting you from harmful germs, and boosting your immune system. Pretty cool, right? But here's the catch: things like antibiotics, a poor diet, and pollution can throw this balance out of whack. When that happens, you're more likely to get infections. One of those nasty invaders is Mycobacterium tuberculosis, the culprit behind tuberculosis. Now your lungs have their own special microbial community. This community plays a crucial role in shielding you from respiratory infections. But factors like smoking or pollution can mess up this balance, making you more vulnerable to tuberculosis. When tuberculosis gets into your lungs, it's a sneaky little bugger. It infects lung cells, dodges the immune system, and can hang around causing long-term illness. If your lung microbiota is disrupted, it can make things even worse, leading to more inflammation and a weaker immune response. M. tuberculosis is no ordinary bacterium. It's a slow-growing, gram-positive bacilli-shaped bacterium with a tough cell wall, making it really hard to treat. Plus, some strains are resistant to antibiotics. Yuck. That's why finding new treatments is so urgent. Understanding how your microbiota affects tuberculosis could lead to better treatments. Imagine using probiotics to support your immune system and improve treatment results. That's the future we're looking at, people. So, keep your microbiota healthy and strong. It's your best defense against infections like tuberculosis. Thank you for watching this brief info sesh on tuberculosis.
Hi, I'm Caitlin, and I'm presenting today on Lactobacillus crispidus. Lactobacillus crispidus is a gram-positive facultative anaerobe rod-shaped bacterium, and here's a gram stain image of these purple rods are the Lactobacillus crispidus. It gets its name by its ability to convert carbohydrates to lactic acid via fermentation, and this creates an acidic environment where it colonizes in places like the human gut, the oral cavity, and the vaginal canal. It's a probiotic found in fermented foods like yogurt and sauerkraut. Lactobacillus crispidus is the dominant bacteria found in a healthy woman's vaginal microbiome. It prevents overgrowth and diversity in that environment by adhering to the vaginal wall and by creating that acidic environment to prevent infections like BV and VVC and STDs. What I found interesting in my research is in researching kind of the background of the human microbiome, you read a lot about how laying that foundation from even before birth, the woman's microbiome really influences her offspring's microbiome. And yet, there isn't as much research about, particularly the woman's vaginal microbiome and what, how it works, what keeps it healthy. And so I found that really interesting. And also that a lot of products, targeted towards women actually make, these problems of like bacterial infections worse by killing off the good bacteria. So it would be nice to see more research done in this specific area.
All right, so here we have a lovely diagram provided from one of the cited sources in my paper, showing us the kombucha fermentation process, which is really similar to alcohol, but there's a key difference that removes a lot of the alcohol that is produced. So it starts with the substrates tea and sugar, which are eaten by the yeast produced or either provided from a previous batch called the SCOBY, the symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast, similar to the process of sourdough. Either way, yeast is continuously formed while this is covered, of course. This yeast is also using the oxygen within the container until it no longer can and has metabolized all of the sucrose into glucose and fructose. Here it switches to aerobic metabolization and eats that form of sugar, which is then made into CO2, which creates a lot of the carbonation in the beverage, as well as ethanol. But most of that, as I said, is eaten by bacteria such as Bacillus coagulans, which I like that name because it creates a coagulate of a layer, I guess, at the top, a cellulose layer, which it is called. It is semi-solid, and it protects any harmful bacteria from getting in, as well as keeping all of this delicious and good bacteria in. So the bacteria, as I said, Bacillus coagulans, metabolizes that ethanol into acetic acids, but it also uses the glucose and fructose to continue to grow and create this protective shell as well as create some other acids. I should mention that this bacteria is only one of hundreds of different types of bacteria growing and feeding this symbiotic culture within the fermenting kombucha. And all of them are contributing an array of different acids and metabolites that can then be useful to our digestion.
Hi, my name's Jasper, and I chose to study Lactobacillus bulgaricus, specifically in yogurt. Thinking about yogurt, it's something that's been enjoyed for centuries among many different cultures and cuisines. There's different ways to enjoy it, from parfaits to frozen yogurt and different types of sauces. It has those health benefits from the microorganisms within it that we'll get into in a minute. And that really benefits your gastrointestinal tract flora. There's many different pieces that go into the production, kind of all of these farming and manufacturing and all the different ingredients that are required in order to mass produce yogurt. Lactobacillus bulgaricus is a lactic acid bacteria, also known as LAB. It's gram-positive, rod-shaped, has a strong tolerance to pH, and its ideal temperature for growth is around 45 degrees C. It also has this benefit of protocooperation, which means that it can either thrive independently or work with other lactic acid bacteria. When we kind of simply think about the process of making yogurt, the ingredients vary, but kind of follow the same sort of structure, being milk, starter culture, probiotics, and additives, which can be flavors, sweeteners. And then kind of we have the process here that we'll also go into in the next slide. So when we're thinking about the metabolic processes of fermentation of the milk, that first step is heat, which is to pasteurize and kill all unnecessary bacteria. And then you're adding in the cultures, which is when Lactobacillus bulgaricus comes into play. And then you incubate it so the cultures has a chance to grow and the yogurt has a chance to set. And then it is cooled in order to slow the fermentation process. Here's my resources. Thanks for listening.
My name's Saoirse, and for this project I chose to learn and write about microbes in the human body with a focus on the oral cavity and the streptococci that exist inside of it. I chose this option because I think there's definitely a great deal of germ fear in the world, germophobia, while the good germs are left forgotten or unknown. It's quite surprising how dependent we are on germs, and I wanted to dive deeper into that for this project. The mouth is probably the body part most often associated with germs, which is valid because the oral microbiome consists of several different genera of microorganisms, including but not limited to Streptococcus, Lactobacillus, and Actinomyces. In cases of dysbiosis where the microbiome is imbalanced, symptoms like cavities, gingivitis, and bad breath will oftentimes be the result. This is because many microbes in the mouth help prevent the growth of the bad bacteria that causes them. Of the genera listed, Streptococcus is the most significant in terms of population. They're divided into the groups Mitis, Sanguinis, Anginosus, Salivarius, Mutans, and Pyogenes. Pyogenes is the one that causes strep throat, and I have those on loop on the screen. Of these groups, S. anginosus and S. mutans are considered to be the most harmful, while S. sanguinis and S. salivarius are more beneficial. Most notably, anginosus causes pharyngitis or throat infection, and mutans is the crooked microbe that gives us cavities and a hard time at the dentist. Sanguinis and salivarius are like the heroes that save the teeth and prevent cavities. So that is my presentation. Thank you for watching.
And let's talk about kimchi. Join me for some Korean barbecue. Kimchi is one of the most iconic fermented Korean dishes of our time. What is kimchi and how is it made? Around 4,000 years ago, it was made in Korea with multiple families, and they used many ingredients to help preserve more food during the harsh winter months. all you would need for kimchi is salted Napa cabbage and radish, kimchi paste, which is made out of rice flour, garlic, ginger, Asian pear, and Korean chili flakes. Then we would put them together by washing the salted veggies, lather them with the paste, and place them all in their respective containers, such as a glass container or a clay vase. Then we'll start the fermentation process. The lactic acid bacteria that helps the fermentation process are going to be shown on the screen here, also called Leucostoct, Lactobacillus, and Wisselia. Mind the pronunciation. But this process is very slow. It takes about a week for the fermentation process to start following through. But once the process has been completed with the fermentation process, kimchi would last about a few months or so, 2 to 3 months from what I've read. It is a perfect Korean side dish for many of our restaurants, easy to side dish as well to grab and to get in the supermarkets. And if you want to join me for some Korean barbecue, just shoot me a holler in class, and I'll see you then. Take care, guys.
Let's discuss sourdough fermentation and the bacteria Lactobacillus sanfrancesensis while we make a loaf of sourdough bread. Sourdough bread making dates back to ancient Egyptian civilization. Sourdough fermentation starts with creating a starter that is used to leaven the bread instead of commercialized baker's yeast. A starter is created with flour and water. The flour and water mixture picks up cultures of natural yeast and lactic acid fermenting bacteria from the air, which will depend on the ubiquitous environment where the bread is made. The yeast helps leaven the bread, while the lactic acid bacteria gives the dough the signature sour flavor. Lactobacillus sanfrancesensis is a lactic acid fermenting bacteria that is not known to be used in any fermentation process of any other foods. This microbe is a rod-shaped gram-positive bacteria that is found in sourdough bread in many places around the world. Unlike some other fermented foods, the microbes are no longer living when the bread is eaten due to the high temperatures during baking. When a starter is added to flour, water, and salt to create a dough, the natural yeast and L. sanfrancesensis start to break down the flour carbohydrates into fructose, which the yeast and bacteria will use in metabolism. During this process, carbon dioxide is produced, which creates the bubbles that give the bread a light and airy texture. Also during this process, lactic acid is produced, which gives the bread its signature sour flavor, which is known as the heterofermentative metabolism process. Other factors such as temperature, pH balance, and oxygen levels also contribute to the flavor, rise, and texture of the bread, as microorganisms metabolize and reproduce differently depending on the conditions of the environment. L. sanfrancesensis is just one of millions of different bacteria that can help ferment sourdough bread that humans have enjoyed for centuries.